So my name is Gianna, and I am really, really happy to be here. I am super, super, super proud of all the people in this club that are doing what you're doing on this campus. It takes a tremendous amount of courage to stand for life on this college campus, and to take a lot for that. And I mean, you are such an example for people of what courage looks like. And you are the type of people that will change the culture and will change the world, because you have courage where most people are running away the second the pressure is applied. And so I really just commend you. Also, I'll use a forbidden word on most college campuses. God will bless you. And I was thinking about that today on the plane too, about how if you're a Christian and you visit a college campus, you get a lot of grief. And it's a good thing I'm disabled and I've been through hell, because you learn to laugh at adversity. But I was thinking about how you always hear, this is not a sermon, and you can't preach a sermon. Oh my gosh, you're saying Jesus. And blah, 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 blah. You just can't. Don't force your values. Don't force your values. Don't force your values. And I thought, well, but society forces its values on me all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I thought, so I'm not allowed to say what I believe, but the entire culture can tell me to shut up, and that's fine. I'm like, no, whatever. So take that. I mean, if we're free, then we shouldn't be threatened by different ideas. So anyway, I'm a Christian. And I don't just say God, because that's not as threatening as Jesus. And I was not born to make people comfortable, but to rather speak the truth plainly, lovingly, but just very plainly. And to say difficult things in a loving manner. But what I found interesting now in the culture in which we find ourselves is that if we disagree, if someone disagrees with you, they just try to shut down the conversation by saying, you hate me. And I don't think that takes a lot of intellectual fortitude. No, I don't hate people. I just had the audacity to be born in an abortion clinic and not die, which is kind of a big deal. So if abortion is about women's rights, then what were mine, and why aren't the radical feminists inviting me to their marches? How come only certain women's rights matter? I just find that curious. I really want to thank you for coming. For those of you that are here, I'm amazed when I meet people that actually want to sit and listen for a minute. And actually aren't staring at your phone the entire time. It's nice. It's kind of respectful, which is super. So I just speak from the heart, and then I'm done. I'm not a super structured speaker, as you can tell. Just so you know. So I'm adopted, and my biological parents were just 17 years old, and my biological mother was 7.5 months pregnant. When she went to Planned Parenthood, we were informed of this by social services. And they said to her, "You're too young to have a baby." you need to go have a late-term saline abortion. They're very rarely done now, but they're actually still done. A saline abortion is a saline salt solution that is injected into the mother's womb. The baby then gulps that solution. It burns, blinds, and suffocates the child. And then the baby is born dead within 24 hours. I've explained this for two reasons. Number one, I was that baby that she was aborting, but as I said a minute ago, I just didn't die. and I'm happy about this. So, when we hear about New York legalizing infanticide, and we hear many on the left saying this never happens, no, this is impossible, I don't know why we're having all this ridiculous discussion about leaving babies there to die, this never happens, I would just like to say, hi. It says on my medical records, born during saline abortion, April the 6th, 1977, 6 a.m., 29 and a half weeks, 2.5 pounds, no resuscitation required upon arrival at the hospital. Why? At the hospital? Because I wasn't born in a hospital. I was born alive in an abortion clinic in Los Angeles. But I didn't die because of the sheer power and authority of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
I am alive for His purposes. And to preach the gospel unashamedly. And so, how can I be ashamed of the God who gave me life? I mean, I can't even make my own heartbeat.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, some of you may be vexed because you don't want to hear about God and whatever. Okay, fine. It'll be over soon. And you don't have to hear about it. But whatever. Speaking of heartbeats, though, you hear the same arguments that do not hold up scientifically. If you want to kick Jesus out of everything, if you want to kick God out of everything, out of the discussion, fine. Just look at medical science. So, what does a heartbeat mean? Pretty elementary, people. No, it's just cells. It's just nothing. It's blah, blah, blah.
It means that like pumping blood to your brain can work.
It means that someone is alive.
Yes.
Excellent. So if you hear a beating heart, someone is alive.
Amen.
But why is it that a heartbeat matters in every other area of life except for this area? Unless it's a baby I don't want. Now I understand that in every audience I speak to, there are women who have had abortions, sometimes several, or men who have paid for them or encouraged them or driven people to clinics or whatever your story may be. And I am not here to condemn you or to shame you or to put you down. I will say, after so many years of doing this, I meet so many women who have had abortions who are running up afterwards and sobbing because they cannot get the abortion that they had out of their mind.
Right.
And the only person I've ever met that's able to set anyone free from this is Jesus. So I would just give him your abortion and give him your life. And even if you hate him, I would tell him you do. Like, I'm into being honest with Jesus. Even if you don't believe in it, tell him that too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I find in the culture in which we're living right now, we have all this knowledge and very little wisdom. We have all this knowledge and so much arrogance.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot make our own heartbeat, and yet we prattle, off all of these, we think we are so incredible and so superior and so, and you just think, I think to myself, I'm dust. It's pretty humbling. I cannot sustain my own life. I couldn't save myself. I couldn't make myself walk. I was never supposed to get up out of a bed. And yet, I'm too sophisticated to mention Jesus because of what you might think of me. He's the only one I'll ever stand before at the end of my life, not you.
Yes.
So, there's a price for courage and there's a price for cowardice. We just have to decide which one we want to pay. And what kind of legacy we want to leave behind. I mean, with each child saved from abortion, generations are saved. With each one lost, generations are lost. So we haven't just lost 60 million children. We've lost the children's children.
Yes.
And the children's children's children. We have lost so much. Because we really just want what we want when we want it. We don't want to take responsibility anymore, right? We shouldn't have to pay a consequence for anything. But it's funny, no matter how much we try to ignore consequences, they'll always be there.
Yes.
Because as much as we want to think we can we can rule the world, we can't. I find that so humbling. So anyway, I do a lot of work in Italy. That sounds fancy, maybe it is. Every time I get to the point where I don't like to say that to Americans because they think I'm living the movie Under the Tuscan Sun. No, I'm not living the movie Under the Tuscan Sun. I won't be surprised if I end up marrying an Italian, though. Have you seen that? Glory to God. And it's interesting. I had a different reaction to my disability. European men respond differently to it than a lot of American men. Which, I love America. I'm not one of these Americans that hates America. But I have found that in America, if you limp, you're not usually the first girl chosen to be buried, which is interesting. More on that in a little while. But yeah, the European dudes, they don't mind. So we'll see what happens. So, a top neonatologist in Italy informed me recently of some interesting things. His name is Dr. Noia. He does work in utero on children with Down syndrome and many different other beautiful things. And in his big Italian way, he came up to me and he said, "Gianna, you are a witness to life." Dude, you are intense. You are as intense as I am. We are going to get along. I already knew that in the 7th month of pregnancy, which she was, my biological mother, that the amygdala is formed, and so our emotions are there in the brain. But Dr. Noia informed me of some other things that I didn't know. This was a really emotional conversation to have. Because he said, Actually, I said, Doctor, may I ask you a question? No problem, no problem. I said, my enemies love to say, you're lying, you're such a liar, you're a liar, you're such a liar, you're a liar, 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 liar. Because they don't like what I'm saying. So in our culture now, I can have medical records that state, and I publish them, born during saline abortion. You're a liar, you're such a liar, you're such a liar. But doctor, they tell me that I'm lying because I don't have burns on my body. So in part they're admitting what should have happened, which is interesting. I don't have burns on my body and I'm not blind, and I shouldn't be able to sing or speak because the procedure should have destroyed all of me. So I'm lying to them for this. So I said, in your medical opinion, why don't I have burns on my body? And he said, I believe that the amniotic fluid was more powerful than the saline solution, and it protected you.
Praise God.
And that does speak to the power of God. And he said, that's my medical opinion, but both you and I know it was Jesus. It was Jesus. So here's this guy at the top of his field, and he's still going, but it was Jesus, but it was Jesus, but it was Jesus. So cool. And then he went on to say, so in the 28th week of pregnancy, our response to pain is formed. So this happened in the 29th and a half week. So you only had your pain response for a week and a half when all of this began. And then we talked about my startle issues, so that can come with CP. So I said, Doc, it's a little bit embarrassing because I'm not terrified every time my raisin toast is popping up. It's just that I'm very jumpy. And I know this can be part of CP, cerebral palsy, but do you also think it could be connected to having lived through an abortion? He said, absolutely. He said, I absolutely believe it's both, or it could be both. That it's connected to your cerebral palsy, but also that your brain may remember. Now think about that. So he said, what I'm explaining to you, Gianna, is that you have endured the highest level of physical and emotional trauma that is possible. And you would think more people would care. And I'm happy that all the people are here. I'm so happy for this turnout. But look at all the empty chairs. I spoke in the Texas State Capitol the other day in support of the Born Alive Infants Protection Act, basically, and the Democrat women just decided not to show up, not to listen to anything we had to say. And do you know that I actually cried and I was shocked? But when I looked at those empty chairs, I thought, this so represents all these people that don't give a crap about my life and never have. They don't care if I would have died. They don't care the cost. They yap on and on about rights and rights and rights and rights and rights, and they do not care. In fact, I've had some of them say in response to my life in newspaper articles, oh, we always hope for fetal demise. In other words, we always hope the baby dies, but she didn't. But when I looked at those empty chairs, I thought, wow, I'm not even worth your time. Interesting.
They're not worth yours.
Very sweet. But just a commentary on the culture. I don't want to listen to you. I don't want to think about you. I don't want to think about this. I want me, 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 me. I don't want to think. I don't want to know. I don't want to hear. I don't want to know. I don't want to let you get any words out. I'm not even going to show up. I'm not going to let you speak. I'm going to shut you down. I don't want ideas. I don't want truth.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
I don't want to be responsible.
And so, I know who I am in Jesus, and it's a good thing. Because I can handle a lot. Because of him. And so I was born at 6 o'clock in the morning in this abortion clinic, and the abortionist wasn't at work yet. Hallelujah. Had he been there, he would have ended my life with strangulation, suffocation, or leaving me there to die. Which is, as Northam talked about in Virginia, keep them comfortable. So we can sit and decide if we want to kill the baby on the table or not. So now infanticide's okay. So when does it end? So I'm disabled, so do you recall hearing the arguments of the people in the UK over baby Alfie and Charlie? Their quality of life is going to be horrible. Their quality of life is going to be terrible. Quality of life is going to be horrible, really. So the abortionist wasn't at work yet, so he couldn't strangle me. So I gave the nurse time to call an ambulance and have me transferred to a hospital, and she saved my life. Thank you, Jesus.
Yes, amen.
And so, after being rushed to the hospital, I was placed in that incubator weighing 2 pounds, and they said that I would die. Then after several months of not dying, I'm a feisty little thing, they concluded that I had a tremendous will to live and that I didn't want to die. It was very observant. So then I was placed in emergency foster care with a bunch of morons who decided they didn't like me. Are you noticing a theme? I was just trying to be born. Then I survived an abortion. Then these people decide they don't like me, so they would shut me in a room for long periods of time, which is highly traumatic on an already traumatized baby. But the Lord was with me. And I was taken out of that home because they were mean and placed at another foster care home of a beautiful woman by the name of Penny. So by this time, I was 17 months old, 32 pounds of dead weight, and diagnosed with cerebral palsy, which was caused directly by a lack of oxygen to my brain while I was surviving an abortion. So I wouldn't be disabled had I not survived an abortion. But you can imagine how I feel when I hear the arguments, if the baby is disabled, we need to terminate the pregnancy. So, who does that sound like? Adolf Hitler.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying is, my life is less valuable, or the baby's life is less valuable, because the baby could be disabled. And do you know how many of those tests are wrong? What we're really saying is we really need to kill this kid because we don't want it to require anything of us. We really don't want to have to risk spending a life taking care of someone that might really drain us. We want to have more fun. If we're honest. So, you hear this a lot now. Gosh, this person's sick, and oh, this person's disabled, oh. You even hear the patient themselves start to say, I don't want to be a burden to my family. Yeah. So it's a good thing I wasn't diagnosed with cerebral palsy in 2019 and given the prognosis of never getting up out of a bed, because who knows what would have happened to me. because you know the prognosis is horrible. And so so they looked at Penny and they told her all the bad news, and she just smiled at them and was very polite, but she didn't believe a word of it. You know, can I just say, sometimes the faith of one person can change your whole destiny. This wasn't a whole church.
Yeah.
This was one woman who just refused to believe that I wasn't ever going to do anything. She went home, she prayed for me, she did my physical therapy 3 times a day, and I began to hold up my head. Well, she's never going to do the next thing, and I began to sit up, and she's never going to crawl, and I began to crawl, and then she's never going to walk, and I began to walk at the age of 3.5 with a walker and leg braces. Not bad. I sit here tonight without a walker and without leg braces because I serve the Jesus who still makes the lame to walk in 2019. And also, those doctors at that time didn't know that I would go to run 2 26.2-mile marathons by running on my toes for 7 and 8 hours because I'm not a real athlete, although that's on the poster, which is super cool. I mean, I was like, what? I'm an athlete! That's awesome! I've got the grit of one. If I don't have the talent, I've got the grit. That was a while ago, and I'm kind of all or nothing, so my marathons were in 2005 and 2006, so I feel like they don't really count anymore. But, and the only people that were left were people from my church and the EMTs that were just happy I didn't die. They're like, woo! Yes, she is alive! This is the girl that never dies! And I didn't care if I was out there for 7 years. It was like, no, I will drag myself down the road. I am not stopping ever until I finish. But then, like I said, I'm all or nothing, so I hate exercise. So when I began training for the marathons, I started from 0, and then I just quit exercising for 12 years until last year. And the problem was that my cerebral palsy, as part of a brain injury and traumatic birth, is fight or flight. So if we were in here and we were in danger, you do not need to fear because I would know how to save us all.